is second. Hamilton finishes in third, but is under investigation. So maybe applaud McLaren, who might get a podium. But on the day that Red Bull have finally dominated, what a race in Brazil.
Formula 1 moves away from the United States of America to round 20, the Brazilian Grand Prix at the Autodromo João Carlos Paes, the Interlagos circuit. It's been home to so many classic championship deciding moments, but it is, alas, not the championship decider this weekend. It's round 20 of the season. After this weekend, just one more race remains in Abu Dhabi, but we have had so many different winners this season. We are hoping to get a classic race here this weekend. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, well, Lewis Hamilton leads the way, 381 points, and is the champion after just finishing second last time out in America. Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc are nearly confirmed in second and third. Leclerc must have a good result this weekend to do so, because he's being chased down by his teammate Sebastian Vettel in 5th and Max Verstappen in 4th place. Albon, Sainz, Gasly also in a battle for 6th place in the championship. Then followed by, we've got Ricciardo, Perez and Norris, Hülkenberg, Kvyat and Raikkonen all battling out as well for the 9th spot. And then we've got Stroll, Magnussen battling out for 15th. And sadly, it looks like Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Russell and Kubica all still at the back. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes are the Constructors' Championships once again. Ferrari are confirmed in second, Red Bull confirmed in third, and this weekend McLaren could confirm 4th place in the championship as well. The battle between Renault, Racing Point, Toro Rosso are getting close again, but Renault have pulled out a gap in the last 2 races. Alfa Romeo look to be stuck in 8th place there, just a little bit ahead of Haas in 9th, and Williams are already confirmed into 10th place. A crazy, crazy, crazy Brazilian Grand Prix. It all just worked out, didn't it? And what a race it was. Winner for Max Verstappen, second for Pierre Gasly, third for Carlos Sainz. But it all started wet and miserable on Friday afternoon when we got to first practice. Right, let's get into FP1 then. Alexander Albon topped a very rain-affected session. He led most of the way on a 1:16.142. He was ahead of Bottas, Vettel, Leclerc and Sainz, completing out the top 5. However, it wasn't all good for Alexander Albon, because at the end, the team decided to put him onto slick compound tyres, and he went off at Junção, and into the wall he went, and Albon brought out the red flag, ending the session prematurely. It was a rainstorm, little activity early on. A handful of drivers went out on the circuit as well. 35 minutes down, the track began to dry. However, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen switched to the intermediate tyres. Soon the rest of the field followed in suit. Albon topped the timesheets at the beginning of the session, as we're just having a bit of a drama with the technology here. Albon used green walled rubber to the best effect, the intermediates of course. He did a 1:16.142, the track not drying out anymore, stopping the session from having the go. As we're really having trouble actually with the load of the iPad here with the scripts, so do bear with us. 5 minutes remaining, the track had been dried up at the intermediate running as well. The drivers reckon the conditions were good enough to wrench out and dry tyres. Spin at turn 2 for Verstappen, very much similar to what happened last year with him and Esteban Ocon as well. And another Danny Kvyat off at 1 as well. Then Alexander Albon and the Red Bull put it into the wall at the end of the session. Nicholas Latifi, the front runner for the drive at Williams in 2020, was out in place of Robert Kubica. Only 16 runners though went out in the first session. Let's take a look then at the times from the first practice session. Alexander Albon topped the first practice session. He was ahead of Valtteri Bottas in second place. Sebastian Vettel was third, Charles Leclerc fourth, and Carlos Sainz rounded out the top 5 for McLaren. Nico Hülkenberg 6th, Daniel Ricciardo 7th, Pierre Gasly in 8th, Danny Kvyat 9th, and Lando Norris rounding out the top 10 on 1:18.559. He was 2.417 seconds adrift of the fastest time in the wet conditions. Then we get George Russell 11th, Kevin Magnussen 12th, Lance Stroll 13th, Kimi Raikkonen 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi is 15th, and the last time goes to Nicholas Latifi in 16th, a 1:20.010. He's 3.868 seconds off. Not setting a time in that session, Romain Grosjean, Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, or Lewis Hamilton, all declining to go out in the first practice session. Albon top, but putting in the wall. A bit of a rookie error, but still it was all to play for. Let's take a look what happened in free practice 2. Let's get on to the free practice 2 report then. It was a Ferrari dominance. Vettel on 109.217 top, Leclerc was second, Verstappen third, Hamilton Bottas fourth, and Hamilton in 5th place as well. Ferrari set the pace. For most of the session, it was much drier after free practice 1, though the clouds were over the circuit. Any chance of rain could come throughout the session. Robert Kubica back in for Nicholas Latifi, but he brought out the red flag only 3 minutes into the session, putting it into the wall. So Kubica having near to none, absolutely none, Friday running, so Saturday FP3 is going to be crucial for him. The red flag was brought out, the session was halted, and then the resulting red flags were drawn. Verstappen completed just 3 laps in FP1 out first, and he was hampered with a DRS issue. He ended 33 laps under his belt, same as his race number. Smoke signaled the end of both Toro Rosso driver sessions days. Pierre Gasly 12th stopped with an engine issue, 20 minutes remaining, and Danny Kvyat crashed out 5 minutes to go, bringing an end to the session again, it being red flagged early in a very similar accident to Alexander Albon. He went off at Zhongkao and brought out the red flags as well. Mercedes went far off the Ferrari short run pace. Bottas and Hamilton 4th and 5th, just 2 tenths off as well. Alexander Albon nowhere to be seen in the top 6, having topped FP1. He finished 9th, locked up on his long fuel run P6. Kevin Magnussen short run pace, the team's most impressive FP2 of the season, all looking good as well. Sorry if I seem a bit too dark. We are of course filming this in the commentary box at the moment. So going into it, just very, very close. Going into qualifying, FP3 once again is going to be crucial. Let's take a look at the times from free practice 2. In the second practice session for the Brazilian Grand Prix, it was an all-Ferrari affair. Sebastian Vettel topping a 109.217. He was just 0.021 off of Charles Leclerc in second place. Then we get Max Verstappen third, Valtteri Bottas is fourth, with his teammate Lewis Hamilton in 5th place. Kevin Magnussen is 6th, Danny Ricciardo 7th, Kimi Raikkonen 8th, Alexander Albon 9th, and Carlos Sainz rounds out the top 10 on a 1:10.310, 1.093 seconds off. But astoundingly, only a second separates the top 8 drivers, and just over a second separates the top 10. Nico Hülkenberg is 11th, from Pierre Gasly 12th, Antonio Giovinazzi 13th, Danny Kvyat 14th, Sergio Perez 15th, Romain Grosjean 16th, Lance Stroll 17th, Lando Norris 18th, George Russell 19th, and only completing 2 laps and not setting a time after crashing is Robert Kubica, who is 20th. More like the old days, it's a Ferrari 1-2 in FP2. Vettel ahead of Leclerc with Verstappen third, Mercedes seeming to be on the back foot. Let's take a look what happened then in free practice 3. Right, let's get into the free practice 3 report then. It was Lewis Hamilton who topped the third practice session of 108.320. Max Verstappen was second, Charles Leclerc third, Sebastian Vettel fourth, and Alexander Albon 5th as well. Hamilton was fastest over the line. He set a dominating pace, topping the sessions the first time, and meaning that 3 drivers from 3 different teams have topped the 3 practice sessions so far. Will that be good going into qualifying, where we are currently unsure? Qualifying runs began in earnest 35 minutes into the hour. Ferrari took on a new set of soft compound tyres to set the early pace. The might of their power units propelling Leclerc to fastest first and second, third sectors, but don't forget Charles Leclerc has got a 10-place grid penalty regardless of where he qualifies due to changing his power unit after issues at the American Grand Prix. Hamilton emerged there from Mercedes shortly after. He had a dominant session as well, making up the times. He was P6, running wide at the centre S's, but did manage to get back. As for Friday, Red Bull and Ferrari have been on a level on short pace runs. We don't know what their race pace is, because we haven't been able to have long runs, so we'll have to wait and see until the actual race to find out how they good are. Toro Rosso, well, they've had a mixed up and down day as well after Friday, but it was 7th behind Bottas for Danny Kvyat as well, a second off the pace, looking good. Giovinazzi was in 8th place as well. McLaren rounded out the top 10. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz split by 0.03 of a second, all looking good. Hülkenberg finished 13th for the Renault. Ricciardo was 15th as well, and at the back once again with the two Williamses. It was pretty much an easy FP3 session for everybody. Right, let's take a look at the times then for FP3. Lewis Hamilton tops the third practice session on 1:08.320. Max Verstappen was second fastest, surprisingly near enough the same gap that was between FP2 with the two Ferraris, 0.026. Charles Leclerc third and Sebastian Vettel fourth for Ferrari. Alexander Albon is fifth. Valtteri Bottas rounds out the top 6 of the top teams as well. Danny Kvyat 7th, Antonio Giovinazzi 8th, Lando Norris 9th with his teammate Carlos Sainz rounding out the top 10 on a 1:09.588, 1.268 seconds off of Hamilton's fastest time. Below that, we get Kimi Räikkönen 11th, Pierre Gasly 12th, Nico Hülkenberg 13th, Kevin Magnussen 14th, Daniel Ricciardo 15th, Romain Grosjean 16th, Sergio Perez 17th with Lance Stroll 18th for Racing Point, and Williams at the back again, George Russell 19th, and Robert Kubica in 20th. The 3 stages of knockout qualifying then, Q1, Q2 and Q3 all seem to be on fire. Who would take pole position with Mercedes looking to fluctuate? It was time for Ferrari and Red Bull to step up. Right, let's get into the qualifying report then and start as ever with As It Happened, and started with Q1 as we saw Verstappen impresses as Carlos Sainz mysteriously ended out the session. It was Verstappen who was on form in the first part of qualifying for the Brazilian Grand Prix. He set a lap time a quarter of a second faster than anyone else. It was Leclerc who was his closest challenger, but his best time came from 6 laps on the soft compound tyres. Interesting to note going into qualifying 3. Ferrari thought. Very competitive fight to avoid the drop zone. Sergio Perez scraping through with his final lap in the last few seconds of qualifying 1. Teammate Lance Stroll couldn't repeat the trick. He has never made it out of Q1 here in Brazil and was eliminated. Danny Kvyat bumped out too, just 0.012 off the pace of Perez. He was 7th in Q1. It's his 7th Q1 exit in 13 races. He was joined by the Williamses of Russell and Kubica. Carlos Sainz was the surprise departure, however. He couldn't get a clear run at the end of qualifying, counting a loss of power, and then the team opted not to send him back out again. He finished out of the session. So knocked out in qualifying 1 was Kvyat, Stroll, Russell, Kubica and Sainz. On to qualifying 2 then, and Mercedes struggle as Haas get both cars in the top 10 for the first time since the Spanish Grand Prix. Leclerc went out first. He opted for the medium compound tyres in the session. Everyone else took on a pair of softs to start the race on. So Leclerc, with that 10th place grid penalty, remember, does have to start the race on the tyre he got through to Q3. So he's starting the medium tyre, so it should make more sense to get Leclerc back up into the front of the field. The Monegasque driver impressed, but Mercedes didn't look like they had the legs to keep up with Red Bull or Ferrari. Hamilton half a second off the pace. Field headed out for a second go, but a spin for Antonio Giovinazzi at turn 8 prevented anyone from improving. So that meant that Lando Norris was eliminated, along with Daniel Ricciardo, Antonio Giovinazzi, Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez, abruptly ending qualifying 2. On to qualifying 3 then, and it was a dramatic one from the start because Verstappen really had the bit between his 10th in the opening runs of the session. He wanted that pole position more than anybody else, but could he get it? The Dutchman was quickest, but he wasn't fast enough. He did set a purple sector. 3 bests were enough to give him provisional pole by 0.08 of a second to Sebastian Vettel, though, on the first run, but he tidied things up on the second run and got a much better launch, fastest in sector 2 and 3, and got pole position, out qualifying Vettel. Leclerc looked to finish in 3rd place to start 13th, but at the last moment Hamilton jumped up to 3rd to make it a Mercedes, a Ferrari and a Red Bull 3rd, 2nd and 1st on the grid. It's looking good though. Leclerc 4th as well, dropped to 14th, that means. So Bottas promoted to 4th. Good grid slot. No driver has ever won from Interlagos on 4th place, so Bottas doesn't look likely to win tomorrow. Right, let's take a look at the full grid then for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen starts on pole position for the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's alongside Sebastian Vettel on row 1. Row 2 is Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Row 3 sees Alexander Albon and Pierre Gasly. Row 4 sees Romain Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen. Row 5, Kevin Magnussen and Lando Norris. Row 6 sees Daniel Ricciardo and Antonio Giovinazzi. Row 7, Nico Hülkenberg and Charles Leclerc with a 10-place grid penalty. Row 8, Sergio Perez and Danny Kvyat. Row 9, Lance Stroll and George Russell. And row 10, Robert Kubica alongside Carlos Sainz, who has to start from the back of the grid for a 25-place grid penalty. He only has to serve the 20. It's all shipshape ready to go for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Verstappen on pole position alongside Sebastian Vettel. It is all to play for. No Megan Birch in the commentary box this weekend for understanding circumstances, so alongside me in the commentary box is Ian Birch for the 2019 Heineken Brazilian Grand Prix.
The Brazilian Grand Prix, race 20, lap 1.
The drivers are feeling that the right-hand boot is just a little bit too tight, the glove's a little bit too loose. You stay calm, the lights will come on. You put in about 12,000 revs, just stare at those lights. Action at Sao Paulo, control the wheel spin, and it's a good start from Vettel, it's a good start from Hamilton. Verstappen leads into turn 1. Who's going to get round the outside? Hamilton tries it. Oh, it's a little bit dangerous, but Bottas keeps position. Vettel has to stand back, no contact there to turn 1 as they head down now towards Casino del Lago. Great start from Hamilton though. He's got ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel's trying to go around the outside into Casino del Lago for the first time. Raikkonen's on with Kevin Magnussen. Lando Norris is there as well. Carlos Sainz has made a good start from the back of the grid, but meanwhile we've just got left, right as we head up now towards Mugello for the first time. Great lead from the race starter of Max Verstappen. He got a great launch. Look at Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris beginning to car their way through. Great stuff. There's Lando alongside Antonio Giovinazzi, and we've got Ricciardo right round the outside of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc to the inside. That's going to be a risky move. Lando Norris is forced off a bit wider. Leclerc trying to go around the outside now. Lando Norris nearly chops him off, but Lando's got the inside line. Coming onto the inside of Juncao, forces Leclerc wide. Leclerc has the outside line all the way up the hill. We complete lap 1 already. Verstappen, Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, top 5. Leclerc's ahead of Norris, and now Norris has got Ricciardo on the outside as Grosjean dives up the inside. Ricciardo goes around the outside of Lando Norris. He'll have an inside line coming to the second part of the centre S. On Leclerc, can't do it. It's a poor exit. Lando gets the move right round the outside to Casino del Lago, and as we come down, we've got Raikkonen battling on the inside. Danny Ricciardo throwing in on Lando Norris, backs out at the last moment. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz got past on Danny Kvyat into the Casino del Lago, and we've got every car scrapping away already, Dad.
Yeah, it's all in the midfield at the moment. There's quite a few lockups on the first 2 corners, but frankly, no contact between anyone. There was nearly contact between the Haas and one of the cars behind you. I think it was the Renault, but the Renault managed to brake. Let's look at the start again. That's a beautiful start. I said to Megan before the start that I fancy the Red Bulls to really get off to a flying start here. And you can see from the start, Verstappen just flew away. Vettel had 2 ideas on his mind. Shall I follow him, or shall I just try and block Lewis off? Far too late, as I said, because Lewis was already alongside you and in front of you. Right? It's one of those end of season things, right? We've only got Abu Dhabi to go after this, and I'll tell you, at this moment, right, this has got all the feeling of everyone's too relaxed, and it's like when you see an exhibition football match, a non-competitive football match, right? Then you start to showboat, and there's a few showboating going on, but there's not enough edge to this race yet.
Lap 8.
2 seconds, hold that. Ricciardo launches up the inside of Kevin Magnussen into the centre S. Can't get the move done, but he's going to be shaping up nicely. And this is the important battle between McLaren, Renault, Toro Rosso and Racing Point. They are all still battling for that 4th and 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. And Ricciardo launches up the inside. Kevin Magnussen turns in. There's contact, and round goes
second. Ricciardo, now with a puncture. We've got Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez just behind him. Wow. Whose fault was that?
I think it was just a racing incident. They were both not giving up.
Replay.
If you look at that clip again of the slow motion, you realise that in slow motion time, you see that the front end bits of the Renault's front wing flick behind, right, and he's flicked off the rear wheels and lands straight on the cockpit and the head of the McLaren behind.
Leclerc dives up the inside of Pierre Gasly, gets the move done. Into the top 6 comes Leclerc after just 10 laps. Now the battle is on, and I think this is going to be what you were talking about, Dad.
Yeah.
Let's have a replay.
Okay, we see some left-hand front wing end plate damage, but no big aero effect at the moment.
I saw what you meant, Dad. Yeah, I saw what happened.
It's the car behind, flicks it up
and hits the
lands on top of the McLaren.
I think that was Carlos Sainz. Yeah, it was Carlos Sainz. I would love to see that once again. Here you go, Dad. Great spot. Ready? Bang. Great spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was Carlos Sainz. Great spot there. I'm glad
the halo comes to the rescue again.
Lap 15.
Time penalty.
Danny Ricciardo, a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision.
Lap 20.
They're pitting. Hamilton's pitting. Yeah. So he was quicker, and he's been gaining on him, but Mercedes think they can undercut Red Bull. Just proves those new tyre graphics are rubbish, because if Hamilton was at 17-80%, he will be pitting for fresh rubber. Away goes Lewis Hamilton. And I believe he's put an old set of compound tyres on. I'm double checking. Yeah, Hamilton's got no new set of the red softs to which he's put on. So he's on an old set of compound tyres, presumably once he's scrubbed. But that promotes Vettel to second, Bottas to third, Albon to fourth, and Leclerc, who can go longer on his stints, is up into 5th place.
Lap 22.
Race leader in. And who's going to have the better stop now? This is going to be super, super, super smooth. Off go the softs. On go his brand new set of softs. What a pit stop. As into the pit lane comes Robert Kubica. What a pit stop from everyone. Ted.
It's a great stop. It's a sub 2 second.
Oh, well done. That's Williams coming through as well. Williams, let go. And it's going to change the lead of the race. Vettel leads. Vettel from Bottas. Albon third. The Williams coming out of George Russell and Robert Kubica. And that has cost it all. What an absolute bargain. And now Hamilton effectively takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's right behind Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc isn't going to keep in there. So the pit stop gamble didn't work for Red Bull. They tried it, but there was a Williams in of Robert Kubica. Robert Kubica was in, and it's cost him it all. Hamilton effectively takes the lead as he tries to get past Charles Leclerc left and right, and he's going to try round the outside, coming into Maguglio before Zhou, and he's got the move. Verstappen launches at the inside of Zhou, gets past Charles Leclerc. He's up into 5th place. Hamilton to 4th, and now we've got a real barnstorm in Brazil. Dad.
Yeah, that was a bit like toffee that was melting there.
Oh, here goes Verstappen!
Those tyres were never going to stick.
But he's done it!
Verstappen going on Lewis.
What a move on the inside of the Center S! The tyres may not have been ready, but I'll tell you one thing, he switched them on big time and retakes the position from Hamilton down to Casino de Laga. Hamilton pulls to the outside. Verstappen just puts his car in the middle, and Hamilton's tyres that have done a total of 2 laps.
Lap 52.
Oh, we got engine failure. It's Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas. Bottas got smoke coming from the rear. Bottas, smoke from the rear as he challenged with Leclerc.
Actually,
it was. Oh, he's stopping. He's stopping. He's out.
Stopping. He's pulling over. That's Bottas gone for the gone for a Burton.
And he's out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas out of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and that might cause a safety car, Dad, because it depends where he's going to... Oh, he might see in a position. It might not cause a safety car. Maybe a virtual safety car at best.
Lap 54.
Safety car.
Safety car deployed.
Full safety car. That is unusual. So, 10 of the last 18 Brazilian Grand Prix have featured the safety car, and it's been called again. Yeah, if Verstappen pits, Hamilton's going in. That's basically it. If Verstappen pits, Lewis is going in as well. What the team going to call? And he's pitting. Verstappen pits. Hamilton stays out. And he may as well pit because he may as well put on a faster tyre. So this is going to help drivers who've just pitted like Vettel, Albon and Gasly. They're on the soft compound tyre, brand new. It's going to help them a lot. And Verstappen may as well pit because when he comes out, he'll be ahead of the Ferrari of Vettel.
Lap 59.
Here we go then. The safety car is coming in. Lewis Hamilton will control the field and he's playing games again. It's echoing back to 2003 when Barrichello did it with Coulthard. It's not smart from Hamilton because as soon as he goes, Verstappen's going to go. He's back in the field up so much. He's going to let the safety car go in. Now he punches in. Anderson cow and Verstappen is right there and he's called off again. This is not smart. The track is green. We are racing, but Hamilton hasn't hit the gas yet. Here he goes at the top of the hill. We're back here in Interlagos racing, and it's a very clean restart from Hamilton. But look at this, Leclerc pulls to the outside, and Sebastian Vettel tries it on the inside, but Verstappen pulls to the outside, tries to make the move, and takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. What a restart from Max Verstappen, the two Ferraris side by side. Leclerc off the track. Meanwhile, we've got Vettel. He's trying on the go again. Round the outside of Albon. Hamilton at the curve de Sol into Casino de Laga. Gets the move nearly on Verstappen. Verstappen leads. What a restart. Albon in third place, desperately trying to hold off Sebastian Vettel. Charles Leclerc just behind, trying now to push. Gasly, Sainz, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Grosjean, the top 10. What a crazy restart, Dad.
Yeah, I think the backup when he was backing them up was the fact that he was recharging that battery with his brakes again, and I honestly feel that it was the only way of trying to keep the whole lot of them not coming past. I think he knew that Max would go past.
Lap 66.
Oh, on the inside, the two Ferraris do battle, but Leclerc gets through on Vettel. I think Vettel wasn't expecting that, and Vettel's going to fight back. Down out of Curve de Sol, down out to Casino de Laga. Vettel, the wheels, they touch, and a big crash. Off goes Leclerc. Vettel out of the race. Surely. Oh my goodness, off and out goes Leclerc. Vettel goes through. Ferrari once again, and Vettel's got a puncher. Vettel with a puncher.
Massively bad day for Ferrari.
And they've committed Harry Carey. That was Vettel who cut off Leclerc, and I think Vettel might have just signed his contract termination with Ferrari. Dad.
Yeah, Harry Carey, more
Safety
like
car.
Harry Kane.
Safety
England
car.
are playing, Harry Kane just scored.
Look at
Anyway,
that.
safety car needs to be deployed here.
It has been deployed. The lightest of touches. It was just the lightest of kisses. But it was all down to Vettel not paying attention. Hamilton's coming to the pit lane. Hamilton's coming to the pit lane. So it's now a Red Bull 1-2. Hamilton's coming to the pit lane. It is a Mercedes 1. It's a Red Bull 1-2, and Alexander Albon's onto the podium. And Vettel limps in, and Vettel is out of the motor race. Vettel out. Ferrari, DNF, and Hamilton dropping down the order. It's a Red Bull Toro Rosso 1, 2, 3. What a wipeout.
Replay.
Lance Stroll is out of the race. He's hit some debris and he's got a front puncture and suspension failure, and he is out of the race as well.
Lap 69.
The thing is, safety-wise, you've got the cars all bunched up together because of the safety car.
Yeah.
And if they allow those last 3 laps to happen, right,
2 now.
you could have a multiple pile-up.
Safety car in this lap.
They're going to do it. They're going to do Oh, this is ridiculous.
Well, it was a very late call, and they've gone green. I don't believe it. The safety car's not in. It's a very late call, and they've gone green. So Hamilton can still get on the podium here, but this is going to end in tears. This is going to end in tears. Verstappen backs the pack up. Albon's just behind. Are you ready for 2 laps of absolute chaos in Interlagos? When we go green, and I tell you what, look at this. Verstappen is launching away, and I tell you what, Albon's going with him, and he's gone. Go, go, go. Surely, come on. Where's the line? The green flag is there. No racing until the start-finish line, and we go green finally on Interlagos. And Hamilton is alongside Pierre Gasly into turn 1, and Albon locks up. That's going to give the advantage to Hamilton now, coming down.
Lewis on new tyres.
Yes, Lewis on new tyres, thank you for that. And he's going to have that all the way down the curve to Sol. Debris flying up in the air. Hamilton looks to the inside. Can't get ahead. Mercedes will finish 3rd. Now this is where the problem was. This is crunch point to the exit of Casino de Laga. No sign of debris, so the track is clear enough. We've got Carlos Sainz and Kimi Raikkonen battling. Sainz keeps 5th. Raikkonen wants 5th for Alfa Romeo. They're on for a double point scoring position here. Red Bull are in the battle as well. Renault battling with Giovinazzi as Hamilton goes for Albon. And around goes Albon! And Hamilton in contact. And Albon spun round. Pierre Gasly takes 2nd. Hamilton surely will get a penalty for that. And Alexander Albon drops all the way to 15th place. Hamilton will get a penalty for that, which means that we're going to see a podium for McLaren for the first time since 2014. It's the last lap. I'm sure Hamilton will get a penalty for that, Dad. He's going to break the
Well, we'll
win.
have to see it again. It certainly looked like it. It's just a simple case if it's a slam dunk, if it was similar to the other one.
I think
He's got a puncher. Has he? No, he hasn't. I don't think so.
Pierre Gasly's in 2nd place. Pierre Gasly's going to finish in 2nd place. Verstappen's going to finish on, take the win. Hamilton at the moment, surely on for a penalty. And Carlos Sainz, if I was him, I would be going like a stabbed rat to get ahead. Here's the move. That's Hamilton. I think that's Hamilton. Too late.
No, he didn't move. And he was alongside. So I think that's a racing incident.
They might. It's under investigation, so we might have to halt for the podium. Look, it's under investigation, but it's going to be a battle. Gasly's going to hold off Hamilton for 2nd place. It's going to be a drag to the line in case it's changed, but it's got a good run out of Junkel. But Max Verstappen wins a barnstorm crazy Brazilian Grand Prix, and there's going to be contact for sure as Hamilton battles Gasly to the line. Gasly is 2nd. Hamilton finishes in 3rd, but is under investigation. So maybe applaud McLaren, who might get a podium. But on the day that Red Bull have finally dominated, what a race in Brazil. Toro Rosso have a podium. They have a 2nd place. Wow! Verstappen wins in Brazil. Gasly is 2nd. We could have McLaren on the podium with Carlos Sainz as well. What an absolute brilliant Brazilian Grand Prix.
Next race, Abu Dhabi.
So, what could be the best Grand Prix of the season, because I think that was better than the German Grand Prix. We have Verstappen, Gasly and Sainz on the podium, Mercedes sort of creating all of the drama, Ferrari committing Harry Carey, and it all happened in Brazil. Alongside me, for the first time since, well, last time out, but the first time on his own on the podcast in quite a while, is Ian Birch. Hello, Dad. How are you today?
I'm not so bad.
Great Grand Prix. And Verstappen as a winner for, I think, the 5th time this year. He's been on form.
Yeah, the Honda engines have done well this year. Yeah, nobody expected it, did they? But
Not at all.
and they've just signed on again?
Yep, they've signed on for, I think, until 2 more years, until 2021.
Which is more than you can say for Mrs. Bottas.
Yes, that's divorce unfortunately for Valtteri Bottas and Imola Bottas. That came as a shock to us all. But what was your highlight moment of the Brazilian Grand Prix? Because I think Ferrari sort of crashing late on in the race kick-started everything.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights. But the fact that there was in the last 10, 15 laps again a lot of excitement, and the fact Gasly, after all his troubles this year, he's losing his best mate who we used to room with.
Thought of him as well, Antonio Bear, when he got the podium. He said in the press conference.
Yeah, it's about time that kid had some good news, and it was. His celebrations were fantastic, weren't they? You know,
louder than Lewis winning the championship and anything like that.
Lewis winning the championship
Back in America, Lewis on America. He was very calm, wasn't he, when he won the championship?
But I always thought he'd win the championship.
Well, he did win the championship. You've said all year he's going to win the championship, and he did win the championship.
Lewis is fantastic, you know.
What do you make of the mistake he made? Because the one thing I agree, he did make the mistake, but he was a gentleman racer. He came out and said, "No, that was my fault. Put me down a penalty. It was my fault. I completely apologise."
In the words of that singer, what was he, Mr. Dustbin Man or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, you know, he's only human.
Oh yes, yeah. He is only human. Yeah.
After all.
He's only human, and I think I think Hamilton had a great race, and the safety cars sort of caught him out because he didn't pit. He did the opposite to Verstappen. He did pit. So Hamilton was on the mediums throughout the race. That cost him at the restart. The restarts were fantastic. They were like IndyCar. So much so that Ross Brawn is having a look at introducing an IndyCar restart, so they always go single file to the line.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was exciting. It's better than their idea a few years ago of having them line up again, do the 5 lights, and go after a safety car. I mean, it's fine enough for red flag. But
What is wrong with the way we've got it now?
apparently, it's because the leader dictates the pace that he can just bolt and everything just stays the same. He likes the idea of the restart.
He gets that advantage because he's got there in front.
Yeah, I know. And there's nothing really wrong with it. But if they want to introduce a new one,
Race.
yeah, say that again.
It's supposed to be a race.
Yeah, I can see. But it does have an advantage if there is a restart like IndyCar.
Yeah.
It might not work at Monaco.
There's a few ones. Singapore.
Yeah, that wouldn't work there. Just have something else.
Yeah, Singapore was another one. You know, and with the wider wheels and the bigger wheels.
Yeah. Right, we'll go through just quickly the results of the Brazilian Grand Prix and give our driver ratings once again. Now, it's only one this time out. And next time in the podcast in Abu Dhabi, we'll have a champion for who's actually got our driver ratings of the year. So it kind of gives the best driver of the year a little bit of a different tinge. But Max Verstappen wins the Brazilian Grand Prix, a perfect strategy and a perfect tyre choice as well. What's your rating for Verstappen?
Verstappen.
Yes.
I rate him highly, but for that race, right, you got to give him 5.
I agree. And I presume Gasly for Toro Rosso. Toro Rosso, who before this year only had one podium, which was victory in Italy 11 years ago, and now has podium with Kvyat at the German Grand Prix, and now podium with Gasly at the Grand Prix. The only Red Bull driver not to have a podium this year is Alexander Albon, and he finished all the way down in, well, I think it was 14th after that contact with Hamilton, but he was on form for a podium. So was Gasly. It was looking to be a Honda 1-2-3 before Hamilton got a bit tail happy into turn number 8 at Mugello. But yeah, Pierre Gasly, second for Toro Rosso, 6 seconds off of Verstappen in the end, but he was fighting hard with Lewis Hamilton at the line as well. That's something that the record books won't show, and I said to you in the commentary. Hamilton and Gasly went side by side across the line, and Gasly just got second properly by around about 1,000th, 2,000ths of a second. So it was really Hamilton who finished in third, but he got demoted down the order. But Gasly properly outdragged that Mercedes, and I think that's what Honda was so happy with, was the fact that they've now...
You know, that was my thing about the driver ratings. We gave Verstappen 5 for his Red Bull Honda, but the Toro Rosso Honda of Gasly, you feel like you need to give him 6 for that because of the inferior car, and he got the job done. So
6, yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah.
So and it just proves what were McLaren up to.
Yeah, McLaren were 4th, but then got 3rd, but they were fantastic. Carlos Sainz getting his first ever podium. He had to wait 2.5 hours until after the race.
But the point is that McLaren, if they'd have kept the Honda engine, could have won it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Renault engine puts down the order. But rating for Carlos Sainz quickly?
The rating for Carlos Sainz, 4.
Kimi Raikkonen is in 4th place. What's your rating for him? Oh, just give me a second.
Kimi Raikkonen, yeah, proving he still got it.
What's your rating?
3.
Antonio Giovinazzi finished into 5th place, and he's had a difficult year, Antonio. Giovinazzi's had a very difficult year. He's had a lot of non-scoring positions in points. He's had a lot of bad races. He's had a few great races. This is definitely one of his great races. It's his highest ever position in 5th place. It was 6th, but now goes into 5th, so higher than he got last time in the German Grand Prix. It's why I say that this Grand Prix was fantastic. The two Ferraris eliminating each other just gave us an exciting race, and the Mercedes being so far down, it just gave us an exciting race. So just quickly, Dad, your rating for Antonio Giovinazzi?
Oh, because he's young and he's got things, I'll give him 4.
Daniel Ricciardo finished in 6th place for Renault, the only Renault in the top 10 for the factory Renault, and it's crucial for their battle for 5th place in the championship. They are now miles ahead. But your rating for Ricciardo?
Danny Rick, because he's Danny Rick, 4.
Actually, Renault and Toro Rosso are level on points just going to the final round, just as a quick reminder. Hamilton finished 3rd, demoted to 7th. The strategy really caught him out, not pitting under the safety car, and Bottas getting stuck on the bump after his car failed. It sort of hindered him a lot, but Hamilton, not his best day.
No, I think there's something of an anticlimax for the whole of the team. Toto won there.
Yeah, he wasn't, yeah.
And I think the strategy was wrong. And I think that when I was watching it, you could see them going down this cul-de-sac, knowing that they couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
And in the end, there was nothing they could do.
No, and they got stuck down. So they really boxed themselves into a corner. Toto was...
But did Lewis making one of the few mistakes he makes all season? Because he doesn't make more than 2 or 3.
No, he doesn't, no.
Right, and he has to take out the other Brit.
Yeah. Alexander Albon, yeah, it wasn't the best situation. So Hamilton dropped down to 7th place. He had a 10-second penalty in the end, so that's why he dropped down the order. Lando Norris finished in 8th place as well for McLaren. He had a great job for Lando, and he's getting there, but he did put something on his Instagram, a mask covering tears of the thing, because Sainz is on the podium and Norris wasn't, but it's coming for him one day.
Yeah, it will. He's done great in his first year. I think he's been a bit rough on himself, right?
I don't think we gave a rating for Hamilton, I've just remembered.
We didn't get a rating for Lewis.
No, we didn't.
I always give Lewis 5, but I can't this time because he got rid of the other.
3?
4.
4, okay. Right, back to Lando with what we were saying.
Lando, 3.
Yeah. Perez in 9th place as well. Racing Point now way behind with an outside shot of getting 5th place in the title. They look stuck in 8th place. But Perez in 9th place. He got promoted up the order, but it was a clean race from Perez. A few dicey moves at the beginning, but clean race.
Yeah, I thought it was a good technical race for Perez, but more than you can say for his teammate.
I think he was out. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Stroll out. Yeah.
Yes, strolled out. He managed to break one of his wishbones.
That was it, yeah.
And his dad wasn't pleased.
Definitely wasn't.
Lawrence was not talkative after that.
No, he wasn't, was he? He was polite, but no, definitely not. Rating for Perez quickly.
Perez 3.
And rounding out the top 10, Danny Kvyat making 2 point scoring positions to Toro Rosso. Not a bad year.
Yeah, could have done better. 3 for him as well.
Kevin Magnussen finished in 11th place, just out the points. Usual race for Kevin, unfortunately.
What's wrong with Kevin?
He did some good moves on Hulkenberg, but yeah.
Yeah, they've got basic car problems still, though, so 3 for him as well.
And with that, Haas are also locked into 9th place for this season. They finished 5th last year. They're now locked in 5th. No matter what they do in Abu Dhabi, they are locked in 9th place.
They should be locked in their factory until they get their aero sorted out.
Yeah, it's quite sad because Williams and Haas are now locked in 10th and 9th place.
Yeah, with the worst aero packages on the grid. The stuff that they put on at Haas to improve didn't. It brought them down again.
And they had that controversial thing with Rich Energy at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but if you put bits on and it goes badly wrong, why don't you put the old bit back on? They didn't.
That's what Grosjean was trying to say back at the German Grand Prix. They just weren't listening to him. George Russell finished in 12th place, the highest. Not his highest, it's his second highest result. Because he finished 12th at the Grand Prix in Germany. So he's matched that. It just proves it was a great race in Brazil. So Russell in 12th in a Williams, your rating?
4.
Romain Grosjean 13th. He had a bit of trouble with I think he had a puncture at one point that we didn't see under safety car.
3.
Then we get Alexander Albon 14th, running second. It was all down to that just little mistake from Hamilton. They're going for the move that wasn't there. Albon dropped down to 14th place.
Did Alex put a foot wrong? No. I would give him 4 as well.
Yeah, I agree. Hulkenberg 15th, pitted, then got the safety car, came back out, then lost out time. It was a wrong strategy.
He did an average race. 2, 3.
Ricky Bitts, the only driver to be a lap down who finished the race.
Yeah, but he had didn't he have a shunt halfway through?
He did, yeah. I think he had a contact with his own teammate actually at some point during the race at the Centre S.
Yeah.
And a puncture.
So we'll give him 2, 3.
Yeah. Right, now we get interesting. Now we have to rate the drivers that retired. It's always interesting. Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, because they went out the same lap. What the heck was going on there?
Well, they've had a little look at it in the factory back at Maranello, and they've decided, like they always do with Ferrari, that nothing went wrong. And there's nothing things, everything's fine and everything's things, but I'm giving them both 2.
I agree. And mainly, I said in commentary, I blame Sebastian Vettel for that, because he moved over and blocked Leclerc. Lance Stroll, as I said, broken suspension, out of the race, before it even really begun.
Yeah, as I said, I think his dad thinks it was his fault.
Yeah. And Valtteri Bottas, the last driver, the first retirement, bad day for Bottas. Even when the car was running, I think he got pole position. No, he didn't get pole position. Verstappen did. He was 4th on the grid, and he just went downhill. Mercedes just didn't turn up this weekend.
Well, what we know now, probably Bottas's mind wasn't on the things.
Yeah, no, what we know now. Right, that's it. Brazilian Grand Prix done.
The strange thing is, he's known her since he was little.
Yeah, he does come as a bit of a shock.
It happens, though.
Yeah, it has happened before as well. Right, Brazilian Grand Prix done. 10 months of racing all comes down to one more race. Abu Dhabi is the final race, and there's still a lot to play for. The battle for 5th in the Constructors' Championship between Renault and Toro Rosso. The top 4 in the championship, they're locked in, of Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren. So it's the battle for 5th in the Constructors and a battle for 6th in the Constructors' Championship between Racing Point and, as my mind escapes me, here's the next one. It's Alfa Romeo. So yeah, it's all looking good there as well. But so championship decided. Still a lot of places in the Drivers' Championship though to be battled between the Renaults, the Toro Rossos and the Racing Points. A lot in the Constructors too. It's all getting close and tasty, and we'll all be back for the final race of the year in Abu Dhabi. This is all here. Bye for now.